Good evening. You all hear me? Right. Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned my exposure in South Africa. That's really where I started my work career, and that was my first exposure to what we variously call corporate social investment and corporate social responsibility. And that term, corporate social investment, has always stuck with me, because it's always, this really is about a hand up rather than a hand out. It's about making investments, it's about sustainability. It's not about handouts and welfare, although welfare obviously is an important part of corporate social responsibility and corporate social investment. And of course, since those days, and of course at the time we were dealing with apartheid and all of the issues associated with that, and it was interesting that multinationals at that time were taking a lead in terms of social change, social issues, and some of the more welfare-related issues. And that's really why I had my first exposure to corporate social responsibility, corporate social investment, and it was really interesting the time that the country was going through. Through the rest of my career, I've had various bits and pieces of exposure. Most recently, when I joined Datacraft, what was then Datacraft, now is Dimension Data, I got involved in Dimension Data's wonderful Carecraft program, and I'm here tonight to tell you a little bit about that. As I talk about that, you'll see linkages with a number of those things. I don't come neatly packaged with slides and so on. I'm going to talk to you from a piece of paper, because for me, it's about what's inside. It's about how one feels about this. It's a state of heart, really, and I think that's what's driven the Datacraft, now Dimension Data program, and what really has been an underpinning of what we do. When I arrived in the company, the program was already in place, and in fact, about a year before I arrived, the management team had gotten together and said, we want to give back. And that's all they said. No strategy, no fancy highfalutin word. We want to give back. We've been successful. We want to give back. And that ethic has kind of driven the program. As we've gone along, we've tried to create some more framework, create some more structure, but the fundamental spontaneous elements of the program have been enduring all along, and I think that's really where the success of the program has been. So, what does the program entail? We have three major legs, three major areas in which it operates. The first is youth and education development. So together with World Vision, we have a very productive partnership throughout Asia. We sponsor somewhere between 160 and 200 children across the region. So we sponsor those children from 13 different countries. So each country has its own program, its own sponsorship program, and those children are, in their turn, located in about 13 or 14 countries, not the same countries, all over the world, particularly Africa and parts of developing Asia. Disaster support has been another key element of our program, and whenever there's a major disaster, we mobilize. In fact, my colleague Catherine Tan, who may be known to a number of you, is a great organizer, and in this particular space, organizational ability and entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship is very important. And so rallying the troops across Asia and getting people involved in giving, in participating, another important element. And then thirdly, we are mindful and sensitive of local needs. And so in all of the countries in which we operate, there are very strong local links with local NGOs, with local welfare organizations, and our country personnel really select local programs that are relevant for them. So there is a broad framework, but there are also some very important local needs elements. A couple of the principles, and again, these principles were not developed right at the front end. This is how the program has evolved. So it's an evolutionary program. The only top management involvement was initially saying, yes, we think we should do this, it's a good thing. And since then, the program has developed its own life right across the region. Voluntarism, very important for us. It is fundamentally about employee participation. It is not a check writing exercise. We don't even have a central budget for it, believe it or not. The countries have little bits and pieces of budget, but we don't have a budget. I can't quote you a figure. We could probably gobble the figures together for you, but that's not the important thing for us, because writing a check is a very simple matter. If you've got the money, of course, we don't always have it, but it's not about writing checks. It's absolutely about getting our employees involved. And we see a lot of spontaneous activities all over the region. And that gives us great joy. We call it sweat equity. That's how we make investments, is through people going to children's home, people doing collections, cake sales, a whole range of things. Not all of it very grand, but that is about getting our people involved. We work through a series of local committees. So we have, and again, those are volunteer committees in the respective countries. And again, as I said, it's about a hand up, it's not about a handout. So whatever we do will have an element of employee participation, employee involvement, and we'll also be looking at how the contribution we're about to make will make a long-term sustainable difference. So for instance, our World Vision Partnership Program is aimed specifically at that, because we sponsor children in a number of countries, and that money goes towards the communities in which they operate, helps with the upliftment of the community and with children's education and sustainability in those communities. And we have relationships with those children because those children really represent the poster children for those respective communities. And so in fact many of our officers write them letters, they get letters from the children, and there really is a close bond there. It is broad-based and it's non-hierarchical. So anyone can be the head of a committee in a country. It is not a management initiative. It is driven by our people, and that's what makes us very proud of the program. We do provide support through central marketing resources, internal marketing resources. We give web intranet space for every country to publish its achievements, to publish its children, what it's doing around that, and it's a sense both of great pride for the countries in which we operate and great competition to see who's doing the best, who has great activities running. As I said, funding, no central budget. It is all driven organically by the countries. They would put a little bit of money aside every year, but we also do a lot of fundraising through internal auctions. So when we have a big function, big meetings, we'd have internal auctions, and in that way contribute money. We were talking to some of the other speakers earlier tonight about commercialization, commercial links. Our program is absolutely not a commercial program. There is a lot of space for these programs to have a commercial leg, but ours is not. It had an internal evolution. It was about participation, about individual involvement. We are beginning to look to see how we can advocate with our clients these programs, but unlike many of the consumer-based organizations, the sort of end consumer retail-based organizations that have a high street brand, we don't. And so we've done this really for internal purposes. Now, I'm nearly time's up. Okay, just finally, what I would say is that we have a very wide base of participation from employees, and that's really the strength of our program. And I think we'd like to, however the program evolves, we'd like to see that element remain. What we're now beginning to see is employees and prospective employees asking us what we're doing, being interested in what we do, and we also see in the employment domain, it makes a real difference when your program is genuine and there's a lot of word of mouth around it. So with that, that's all I have. Yeah, thank you.